Welcome to the Will and Aaron Show with William Kramer, my co-host Aaron Bontrager. We cover local sports including the NIC and NLC, plus teams in St. Joseph and Elkhart counties. We also cover college and pro sports. Today we will recap high school football week 3 and preview week 4. Discuss big headlines in college football as well as look ahead to the next week big games. Reveal our top 5 NFL teams and preview the Chicago Bears and the Indianapolis Colts. Let's go ahead and begin with our first topic, local high school football recap of week 3. Starting off with the Bremen Lions stunning victory at Mishawaka-Marion 35-31. You know, Aaron, this was a back and forth game. Big plays on offense in the first half by both teams. With Bremen up late in the game, Marion had a few scoring opportunities, but ultimately was denied.
Yeah, Marion may have been caught looking ahead to next week against New Prairie. Yeah, this might be the upset of the year so far, a stunning defeat for Marion.
Indianapolis Cathedral 35, Penn 21. You know, Aaron, we talked last week about the question was, could Penn close the gap? And I think the answer was pretty clear. Penn started out strong first half, a few costly errors right before halftime. Cathedral converted on those mistakes and raised Penn's lead. And even despite being down 14-13 at halftime, Penn was feeling pretty good.
Yeah, considering that Cathedral has outscored the Kingsmen 89-7 in its previous 2 meetings, Penn had some reasons to feel good.
You know, those good feelings quickly went away, though, as the Irish pulled away in the second half. Cathedral really showed that, you know, there is still a gap between Penn and the elite teams in the state of Indiana. Cathedral head coach did praise Penn's football squad. And I think the state of Indiana will notice the score. Penn is making progress towards being elite again. John Glenn 8, St. Joe 3. This is one of my predictions I got wrong last week. This defensive struggle came down to a few big plays. St. Joe had a 28-yard field goal in the first half. Chase Miller of John Glenn hauled in a 25-yard touchdown pass from Aiden Johnson right before halftime. And then second half, it was all about John Glenn's defense shutting down St. Joe in the second half.
Yeah, an interception in the end zone with 31 seconds to play ended the Indians' bid for a comeback.
So John Glenn with the win is now 3-0, matching their best start in school history since 1990 when the Falcons started the season 5-0. Let's move on to LaVille's 41, Pioneer 18 dominating win. Paul DeWitt, Lucas Plummer, and company put on quite the show. LaVille moves on to 3-0 overall, 2-0 in the Hoosier North Atlantic Conference. New Prairie 24, Lowell 7. New Prairie controlled the line of scrimmage as we thought they would, and were able to run the ball effectively. Defensively, the Cougar defense produced some turnovers, a couple interceptions, and fumble recoveries.
Yeah, this was a solid win against a quality opponent, and the Cougars played better than what they showed last week against Goshen.
South Bend Adams 14, South Bend Riley 6. This went into double overtime. You know, this was a really big city game. A lot of people were there. Riley scored early. Adams scored late to force overtime. And then ultimately the Eagles scored in the second overtime to win the game.
Yeah, this is the second week in a row that Riley had a halftime lead, only to lose the game. Wildcats need to learn how to finish games, and as Coach Lee pointed out, that comes down to trust and belief. All right, we're going to turn to the NLC here. The first game, Mishawaka 45, Northridge 39 in double overtime. I'll be honest, didn't see this game being this close and going to double overtime as well. That's just crazy. The Cavemen jumped out to an early 11-0 lead in the first quarter. Then Northridge would score on 2 consecutive drives in quarter 2. It's a really back-and-forth game all game as both teams traded blows. Mishawaka made more big plays at the end and kind of capped off with Malik Washington's interception on the final pass of the night, which sealed the win for the Cavemen.
Northridge showed they are really a good team, and doing this against number 3 team in the state in 5A, ultimately they did come up short, but a lot to be proud of. And as we mentioned last week, this is a rough stretch for them.
Yeah, both teams would also miss late field goal attempts to win the game in regulation, so a truly instant classic type of game. The Elkhart Truth had a really great summary in that there were 8 lead changes total, 2 ties, and 0 punts. Mishawaka gained all their yards on the ground, of course, while Northridge used more of a run pass. They totaled about 338 yards. So, yeah, it was just a slugfest. Then the next game is Northwood 41, Concord 13. The Panthers are a scary team right now. They showed their dynamic ability again on offense and multiple big plays in the first half to kind of take control 24-6. They were led by junior quarterback Owen Roeder, who got the start. He threw for 399 yards and 4 touchdowns. His junior teammate, Tyron Tuggle, Nitro is his nickname, had 245 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. And then, Roeder got the start. Caden Lone moved to running back for this game. But he also got into the action by throwing another touchdown pass to J.J. Payne. The Panthers have a lot of depth on offense, just by those stats there, and their defense is playing really well too. The defense overcame the offense having 2 turnovers and 1 on special teams. They really pressured the Minutemen. They got 7 total sacks. Caden King led the Panthers with 2.5 sacks. So, yeah, they were able to get pressure, stop the run, which is a winning combination.
The quarterback change is a bit puzzling to me. Of course, I'm not following Northwood football in great detail, so I don't know the ins and outs. But you start the first 2 games with Caden Lone. You win both games, right? It seems like things are going well. Then you switch quarterbacks, and this quarterback explodes. So, Aaron, let me ask you. You cover the NLC more than I do. What are you hearing? Do we have a quarterback controversy on our hands here?
I think Coach Andrews was pretty clear. I think he was quoted in the truth saying that Roeder's their quarterback going forward. I don't know if it's more about getting some of their defensive players just time on the defensive side and switching Caden Lone to running back. I don't know. I don't have a clear answer, but it sounds like they like Roeder and they turn to him. So,
well, my question is, if Roeder is the guy, then why wasn't he the guy for week 1 or 2? And why did they go with this Caden Lone kid? So, you know what? I don't know. I'm not in the Northwood community. I don't know all the ins and outs, but, just interesting to me. The Minutemen made it interesting in the third quarter as they held the Panthers to a field goal and were able to score again. Concord scored on a second passing touchdown connection from Hudson Glantz to Juan Ross.
Yeah, so this was one of their final big plays of the night. It kind of bounced off a Northwood defender, and Ross took it 87 yards for a touchdown. It cut the lead to 27-13, but after that it was all Panthers as they would go on to score 2 more touchdowns through the air. Next game is Goshen 28, Wawasee 18. Goshen jumped out early again, 14-0 at half, but Wawasee battled back in the third quarter to cut the lead to 21-18. But it came down to senior leadership for the Red Hawks, and quarterback Quinn Bechtel was a difference as he as he led his team to overcome the rally with a 1-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. He also had 2 touchdown passes to senior wide receiver Noah Alford. The Warriors did, however, make it close there, and Hunter Tinky would return the ensuing kickoff 65 yards to the Redhawks' 24-yard line. That was kind of like the last possession, but they would go on to fumble. So, yeah, it was kind of cut short with that fumble. So who knows what could have happened there.
The Red Hawks showed some resolve here in this game, made less mistakes down the stretch to hang on to win the first of the Coach Wagaman era.
Next up, we have Warsaw 70, Plymouth 0. All Tigers in this one. They went up 21 at the end of the first, 56-0 at half, 63-0 end of the third. They outgained Plymouth 415 yards to 85 yards.
Plymouth only had 4 first downs, while Warsaw had 16. Warsaw was able to play JV players, in the second half.
Yeah, I was reading in the Union Times. They played 3 different quarterbacks, and all 3 had a touchdown run when they were leading the team. And the Black Plague defense, that's their nickname in Warsaw, is they were dominant again, scored 2 touchdowns this week, one on a fumble return and another pick six. And the final game, this is an NECC game. Fairfield 20, Central Noble 7. Brecken Marin was a star of the Falcons' win. He rushed the ball 21 times for 141 yards, and his late touchdown kind of was the final dagger for Fairfield over Central Noble.
So the undefeated Falcons next week travel to Indianapolis, and they'll be tested by Southport. We'll have more on that game later.
All right, now we're going to switch up to Week 4, and I'm going to preview the NLC games. So the first one I want to just highlight is Warsaw 3-0 traveling to Concord, who's 1-2 now. Warsaw is playing well on both sides of the ball. They're setting the tone by running the ball effectively, and the Tigers' defense is making big plays, even scoring points. That makes everything easier for you. I do think Concord will play tough and maybe challenge the Tigers through the air with their vertical passing attack, but Warsaw will win and pull away in this one. They're more experienced and deeper on both sides of the ball.
I like this Warsaw team. I think they're getting better each week, and they're going to try to enforce their will and their style of play on Concord. But you know what? You can't count out the Minutemen. Coach has been there a while, and he's built a culture there. And I think those guys are really going to have to earn it. Warsaw, that is. Concord's just not going to lay down, obviously. So it'll be a tough game, but, Warsaw should get the victory.
Yeah, that's for sure. Concord's a little different than Plymouth this year. Next up is Northwood, who's 3-0, visiting Northridge, who's 1-2. Feels like a potential shootout between these two teams. Both teams have found the end zone with regularity. They have looked good against good competition. Of course, Northwood has looked better overall, and I think Northwood's skill players will be too much in the end for the Raiders. I give the slight edge to Northwood, and you factor in Northridge is coming off that heartbreaker against Mishawaka, and the third of 3 tough games. I think they might hit a little wall emotionally. There's potential for that. And the Black Crunch are holding teams to about 11 points per game so far. They held Concord's feature back to only 27 yards. Can they do the same against McLean Miller and the Raiders? I think it'll be a little bit more challenging task. Can Northwood establish the run against the Raiders? Do they even need to? I mean, so far Northwood's primary mode is to attack through the air. And, I mean, that makes sense. You got 2 potential Division I players, and Tuggle and Payne at the wideout spot.
So Northridge has not started the season 1-3. You have to go all the way back to 2016. That's when they lost to Adams, Michigan City, Wawasee, and then beat Plymouth to start off the season 1-3. They ended that season 3-8. So, I don't foresee Northridge finishing the season 3 this time. They're too solid. Obviously, they showed the local area what they can do against Mishawaka, but it's just a tough game. With Northwest offense, they're so explosive. I guess my question is, can Northridge defense hold Northridge offense? Because I think Northridge will be able to do some things. So, which offense can do the most damage?
Yeah, good point there. Next up is another undefeated NLC team, Mishawaka, 3-0, going to Goshen, who's at 1-2. Mishawaka should win this game. They're coming off a thrilling win. The Cavemen have established their identity and culture that starts with running the ball. And Wawasee rushed for 178 yards on Goshen in week 3. So I like the Cavemen to be able to run on this team. And then the Goshen's going to have a tough challenge in stopping the run for 4 quarters. Goshen will have to play clean football to stay in this one. If they can establish the run, it could be closer game than maybe people might think. But I'm going to go with the Cavemen in this one.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Aaron. Mishawaka is just simply too good, and these programs are not on the same level right now. When I look at Mishawaka's schedule, the next 2 games are very winnable games, Goshen, Plymouth, and then it's that huge showdown at Warsaw for the NLC. So that'll be a very interesting game.
And then the last game, Wawasee and Plymouth, both looking for their first win. I think Wawasee should win this game. They showed some progress against Goshen on offense, especially. Like I mentioned earlier, they were able to run the ball pretty well against the Redhawks. They took care of the ball. They didn't turn it over in the final possession. Who knows? They might have got their first win last week. I look for Wawasee to clean that up, get off to a hot start in this one. They should be able to run the ball and get their first win.
So Plymouth has only scored 7 points so far this season in 3 games. Whereas you look at Wawasee, they've scored in 2 of their 3 games 30, 42 points, So I'm going to have to go with Wawasee. I agree. I think they get the win here. Okay, we're going to move on to more of the NIC games, starting with Jimtown, 1-2, playing a huge NIC North-South game at John Glenn, who is 3-0. This game got a lot more interesting with John Glenn. Some might see it as upset, beating St. Joe last week. Jimtown, back to their, Jimtown way, dominating fashion win against Osceola Grace. I tell you what, Aaron, when Jimtown plays clean football and they're clicking on all cylinders, they're a tough team to play. I like Jimtown's defense and their ability to limit John Glenn's rushing attack. I am concerned about John Glenn's throwing ability and Jimtown's secondary being able to stop the throw, or the pass, I should say. However, I'm going to take Jimtown in what I see a very close, low-scoring game. And the Jimmies will win a huge North-South divisional game.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think we kind of predicted this at the start of the year. Jimtown opening with some tough teams. And then this is a crucial game for the Jimmies. And I think, like you said, they've taken their bruises and they're ready to get a good win here.
So let's move on to New Prairie, who is 3-0. Will be facing Mishawaka Marion at 1-2. I think that record will surprise a lot of people locally. I think we would expect them to be 2-1 instead of 1-2. That obviously that loss to Bremen was a surprise to us. But we gotta remember that Marion did beat New Prairie last year 33-0. And 1 year, it's hard to say in 1 year that a lot's going to change, but I think that New Prairie has momentum. If you look at New Prairie's schedule, they really haven't faced a team. You might argue LaPorte, but they haven't really faced a team that is you would have the athleticism and the speed that Marion's going to present them. So I think that'll be interesting to see how New Prairie deals with that aspect. Marion's young players are kind of still trying to figure things out right now. Can they come together? I would imagine that Coach Davidson is going to have them focus and a very good practice week going into this game. It wouldn't shock me to see this being a close game. It wouldn't, really. But I'm going to go with the Cougars. I think their line play is just too good. It's better than Marion. Now, skill-wise, that might be a toss-up. Who knows? But I like New Prairie winning this game, making enough plays down the stretch to send Marion to their third loss of this season.
Yeah, I'm going to go with your knowledge on this one. I like New Prairie. It seems like they're kind of clicking early. Let me ask you this. A third loss here, is it time to panic if you're Marion?
No, because, they've shown their ability to get better over the season in years past. But it kind of has a little bit different feel this year than maybe last year's slow start, and then they really got going. But it wouldn't shock me to see Marion win the sectional, and then who knows what's going to happen in the regional. Moving on to Penn, who is 2-1, playing on the road. Long drive. They got to go all the way to Cincinnati St. Xavier, who's 1-2. The Bombers are loaded with talent, Aaron. I'm telling you, Division I players all over the field. Their record does not indicate how much of a threat they really are. It's going to take a huge, gigantic effort from the Kingsmen to win this ball game. I am encouraged by the surprising performance last week. As a program, I think Penn's moving in a good direction. The question to me is, can they follow that up with another great effort this week against a very solid team? I have St. Xavier winning this game. I just don't think that Penn has enough to go blow with a team like St. Xavier.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see how they come off that performance against Cathedral with this game. Yeah, should be a good measuring stick for them to see how far they've come.
I got to give it to Coach Yeoman and the AD for not backing down from scheduling these great teams, Cathedral, St. Xavier. Like we mentioned, one of the episodes, I can't remember which one, we did talk about the scheduling and how Penn over the years, or really over the decades, has scheduled these, whether it's indie schools or Fort Wayne or in the region, trying to play talented teams in the effort to get ready for, a state title run. So, our last game we're going to preview is going to be Southport, who is 0-3, and Fairfield, who is 3-0, and this game is at Southport. Despite Southport losing their last 15 games dating back to 2020, this is still a big game for the Falcons, as the Cardinals are a 6A school licking their chops to play a 3A school up north. Of course, everybody knows what the stigma is for northern teams. They play football up there. Yes, we do play football up here. And this would be a great opportunity for a northern team in Fairfield to kind of show an indie school that, hey, we do play football. So Southport is balanced on offense. They average just north of 200 yards a game. Fairfield, as we mentioned in previous episodes, they've come from behind at halftime to win the second half and ultimately win the game. Sometimes, though, Aaron, when you play with fire, you get burnt. And it worries me, these slow starts for Fairfield. Eventually it's going to catch up with them. Hopefully not this game. So I do see Fairfield winning this game and moving on to 4-0.
Yeah, if you recall, I guess I predicted Fairfield wouldn't win 8 games, and they're kind of proving me wrong right now with all the non-conference wins, which is great. And I kind of think they're going to win this one too. And it will help them get to that 8-win milestone, and then we'll see where they're at come postseason time. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some of the college football headlines. You can listen to the Will and Aaron Show podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and like our videos. Follow us on Twitter at Will Aaron Show. You can follow the Will and Aaron Show Facebook page where you can interact by commenting, liking, sharing, and reviewing our podcast.
Welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show, where we talk about local college and pro sports. We're going to move on to our next topic, college football. Aaron, week 0 and week 1 are pretty much now done. As of this recording, we still have the Clemson and Georgia Tech game still to go, but it's pretty much wrapped up. Let's take a look at the Power 5 conferences and their non-conference record in the last 2 weeks here. It's interesting that the Big Ten leads all Power 5 with a perfect 10-0 record, a blemish record there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's kind of surprising, but I'm excited. It's a good start for the Big Ten.
It is, man. Great start for the Big Ten. I think maybe the most surprising, or at least the one that sticks out in my brain, is the Rutgers win against Boston College. They were underdogs in that game. That was a huge win for Coach Gianna and the Knights, Scarlet Knights. Okay, no surprise here. The second best record in non-conference games. The SEC 14-1. Their only loss was last night in what was maybe the best game of the weekend. LSU losing to Florida State in Coach Kelly's kickoff to his era down there. What do you think, Aaron, about 14-1?
Yeah, that seems likely. I got a question. Who are you pulling for in that one?
I respect Coach Kelly, what he did at Notre Dame, but just the way he left, what he said about just Notre Dame not having resources and kind of didn't fit with me the right way. So was kind of happy to see Florida State win that game. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool that they have that one loss and Big Ten doesn't. So,
and I'll be quite honest. Let me ask you this, Aaron. If Kelly is at Notre Dame, do they perform as well as they did this past weekend against Ohio State?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. I'd probably say yes, but I don't know.
See, I'm going to disagree here. I'm going to say no because Freeman, there's something about Coach Freeman that he really connects with players. I'm not saying that Kelly didn't connect with players, but they were ready. And they were giving it to Ohio State, and that impressed me. So the third best record in the Power 5 conferences against non-conference opponents. The Big 12, they went 9-1. The only loss was West Virginia to Pitt, and that was a great game to watch as well, back and forth with both teams having new quarterbacks from transfers. The ACC had a record of 10-2. Their two losses were Virginia Tech to Old Dominion, and of course Boston College losing to Rutgers. Clemson, as of this recording, hasn't played yet. They're actually going to play in about an hour or so. The Pac-12, no surprise here, the worst record. They went 9-3. Their three losses were Oregon getting blown out by Georgia, Utah, probably the conference, maybe their best option, maybe for a college football playoff choice. They lost to Florida in a stunning way, and then Colorado getting beat pretty solidly by TCU.
Yeah, that Utah one hurts me in my top 5. But I guess it's good if they lose, it's now and not later.
That's right. You had Florida as your 5th best team to finish the college football playoff or college football season. But you know what? If they can run the table here and hope for chaos in the other conferences, who knows? Maybe things turn out better for them. But definitely a big blow to the Utes against Florida. So let's look at some of the top headlines from both Week 0 and Week 1. I'm going to start off with Nebraska and Northwestern. Wow, what a game that was. I think what was stunning was the Coach Frost's decision to kick an onside kick. They were up 11 points in the third quarter. Just scored, and Northwestern recovers an onside kick, and obviously they come back to win that game.
Yeah, that was when I saw the headlines for that. It just seems like a fitting thing for Nebraska right now.
Yeah, a lot of people said that they were the best 3-9 team last year. Of course, they had so many close losses, and just the expectation of being better this year. I don't think a lot of people thought they would struggle with Northwestern, but the Cats do it again. It always seems like they come through in these big games, and got to give a lot of credit to Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, and how they came out against the Cornhuskers.
And then Pitt wins the backyard brawl 38-31. A lot of people question if Pittsburgh could score points following the mass exodus of key players. They had the USC transfer quarterback Slovis lead the Panthers to a big win.
Aaron, I watched that game, and it was a lot of excitement. It's interesting that Coach Narduzzi was pretty fired up at ESPN after the game. I don't know if you saw that. So according to him, Narduzzi said that ESPN basically said that there weren't going to be a lot of Pittsburgh fans. And it would be mostly a pro-Mountaineer fan there. And when I was watching the game and they were ESPN was scanning the crowd, all I saw was Pittsburgh fans. And they were so loud. So I don't know what that was all about, but great game. Nonetheless, great game. And back and forth, exciting football. So Penn State and Purdue, that was a big conference Week 1 game. Penn State goes on the road and gets a huge victory. This was kind of back and forth. Sean Clifford leads the Nittany Lions on the winning drive to keep their Big Ten East conference title hopes alive. Purdue played well enough to win this game, but just couldn't close it out at home.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people were questioning the play calling by Purdue. Yeah, tough start to lose, or tough way to start the season, I should say.
But this is still a solid Purdue team. Rocky start. I wouldn't even say a rocky start. They played Penn State tough. Penn State probably is a solid team. So no shame in losing to Penn State. But now you got to follow it up with winning the games you should win.
Yeah, definitely. And then our Hoosiers get a big win, 23-20 against Illinois. And they won their first Big Ten game since 2020. Connor Bazelak, the Missouri transfer, led the Hoosiers on a 75-yard winning drive.
So Connor Bezalik from Missouri, a lot has been written about him, how he's been wanting a new fresh start. Well, he got his new fresh start, didn't he? What a debut for him as a Hoosier. I have to say, I love those retro jerseys they wore. It really stood out to me. Great win for the Hoosiers. I'm happy. I know you are. And they got 2 winnable games coming up. Very easily can be 3-0 heading into a huge road game at Cincinnati. So Old Dominion steals a win from Virginia Tech, 20-17. Then they upset the Hokies for the second time in 4 years. What a win for Old Dominion.
And then, of course, our Irish performed better than expected against Ohio State, losing 21-10. The Irish offense sputtered in the second half, and Ohio State eventually wore down the Irish defense. Questionable call by the Irish defensive coordinator to blitz both safeties and a 3rd and 11 that put Ohio State on top for good on that play.
Yes, I don't understand that play call. I mean, the whole game, the philosophy is keep everything in front of you. You're playing 2 safeties. You're tackling in space pretty well. And then on a crucial play, when you're still in the game, you roll the dice and you gamble and you lose that gamble. It was, to me, I mean, as soon as I have it, I text you. I'm like, what? Why did they do that? And I just wish they wouldn't have done that. Play the game the way you've been playing. I think if you force a 4th down and it's 4th and 6, 4th and 5, Ohio State probably kicks a field goal, and the guy already missed a field goal earlier in the game, so he might not even made it. So I don't understand that call, but they didn't lose that game on that call, defensive play call. You gotta give Ohio State credit. That last couple of drives, the offensive line from Ohio State really just wore down the defensive front for Notre Dame, who had played so well in that game, but Notre Dame just didn't have enough down the stretch. So a wild game, Aaron. North Carolina, Appalachian State. This was an incredible game in 4th quarter. 62 points combined, and the Tar Heels come away with a 63-61 win. That looks a lot more like a basketball score than a football score.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was trying to follow the highlights, but it seemed I couldn't keep up with it. I was like, what is happening in this game? Yeah, and it didn't even go to overtime, which is even crazy to think about.
Imagine it had gone to overtime.
Yeah.
84-80 game.
Yeah. The next game, Georgia dominated Oregon soundly 49-3. Another example of how far the Pac-12 elite is from the SEC elite.
Oregon, Utah, those are some of the blue bloods in the Pac-12. Obviously, the Pac-12 still has USC as they had a good result this past weekend. But not a great weekend if you're a Pac-12 fan. I mean, you got to be concerned about your conference, some of your blue bloods not performing well. And we just saw, I mean, Mario Cristobal leaving Oregon. And if he was still there, that's not a 49-3 game. I mean, that's a closer game. But it's just we're Big Ten guys. It's just kind of sad to see the Pac-12 be this bad. Hopefully they do better. So Cincinnati and Arkansas. This was a really intriguing game for a lot of reasons. It's no surprise Cincinnati have a lot of questions going into the game. Could they perform against a very solid Arkansas SEC squad that many people like? And they hung with them. It was 31-24 the final. And I think if you're a Bearcat fan, you have to kind of feel still good about what you have as a team moving forward. They're not going to take a huge step back, I don't think. They should be pretty competitive down the stretch, throughout the season.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see both these teams where they go from here. Then the Houston game, many experts think that they're the best of the group of 5 teams. They needed 3 overtimes, however, to put away University Texas at San Antonio, 37-35. But the Cougars' dreams are still alive.
This UTSA squad is an interesting team. Last year they had an incredible season, and Houston has a huge game next week. They play Texas Tech. I think they're favored by 3 points. Should be a really good game. So Lincoln Riley leaves Oklahoma, goes to USC. And, of course, he's one of the best recruiters, especially for offensive players. We all know what he's done with quarterbacks throughout the years. And they put up 66 points against Rice in their opening Week 1 win. I think no one's surprised on the offense. I think I was surprised what they did defensively, limiting Rice to 14 points. They had 3 pick sixes in the game. And a complete game for USC and a great start for Lincoln Riley and company.
Yeah, I think they'll be a team to watch as the season keeps going. And then the one that hurt the most, Florida defends the swamp with a stunning 29-26 win against arguably the Pac-12's darling in Utah. Billy Napier gets his first big win as the Gators head coach. Utah had a chance. They were driving late to take the lead until Cameron Rising threw a stunning interception.
Your heart goes out to Cameron Rising. He's the heart and soul of Utah Utes. He's been there forever. And just a heartbreaking loss for Utah. Had they won that game, could you imagine the talk of Utah? People would be saying that the Utah Utes could be a dark horse to be, the Cincinnati of this year, But now that's looking very, very not good. And we'll see. Utah plays, I think, Southern Utah this next week, so they'll bounce back and get things rolling again. But just a huge win for Billy Napier, huge win for Florida Gator Nation, and a great way to start off the season. So let's look at some of the Week 2 big games, starting off on Fox at noon. The Alabama Crimson Tide and the Texas Longhorns. This is at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, Texas. Alabama is a 20-point favorite. Aaron, does that surprise you against a brand-name blue blood Texas Longhorn team?
No, I think that's a reasonable line for this game. Alabama is clearly the best team as of right now. And I think they'll probably win pretty easily, unfortunately.
So, quarterback Ewers of Texas had a pretty solid week last week. 225 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. A lot of attention is going to be on the quarterback battle, Bryce Young and Ewers, who can outdo who. Of course, you got to think about Jay Sanders as well, the impressive tight end from Texas. He had a big game as well last week. If Texas can find a rhythm and move the chains and kind of score early, even if it's just a field goal or whatever, put some points on the board, get some momentum going, feel good, energize the defense, maybe there's a chance to keep this game competitive. But Alabama, just top to bottom, roster-wise, and the depth as well. It's just too much, and I think Alabama eventually will stretch your lead out as the game goes on. So, but a lot of eyes will be on that game. I'll watch it because it's Alabama, Texas. Those are 2 big brands. Hopefully, it's a good game. Also on noon, if you don't want to watch Alabama and Texas. Maybe you're just an anti-Alabama guy. I don't know. Who knows? There's a good game on ESPN. South Carolina 1-0 faces Arkansas 1-0. This is at Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Arkansas is an 8-point favorite over the Gamecocks. This is an interesting game because former Oklahoma Sooner Spencer Rattler, first game at the helm for South Carolina. A lot of talk is about Coach Beamer and the culture he's building, the momentum he has. There's a lot of excitement down there for South Carolina. Can they compete with a proven team like Arkansas, who a lot of people would say they've had the hardest schedule the last few years? I mean, look at their schedule this year. It's a daunting task. So I like Arkansas in this game. I think they're just too tough. But it wouldn't shock me to see this a really close game with South Carolina and their improved roster. What do you say, Aaron?
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting game. I kind of agree with you. I think Arkansas at home should get the win. But it'll be interesting to see Rattler in a new situation. Can he live up to the hype he had? Yeah, looking forward to seeing that one.
Okay, at 3:30, ABC, we have Tennessee 1-0 and Pittsburgh 1-0 at Acrisure Stadium, Pittsburgh. That's an interesting name, Acrisure. I'm so used to Heinz Field. I'm not sure how I feel about that, Aaron. Acrisure Stadium. Anyways, Tennessee is a 7-point favorite. That's odd, considering that Pittsburgh is ranked 17th and Tennessee is unranked. But the odds maker, like the Volunteers, I don't know, maybe because of their SEC bias. Is that going on right there? I don't know. But the over-under is 65.5 points, so we should see a lot of points in this game. Slovis looked good against West Virginia. I mean, he had an answer every time West Virginia went ahead. So if you're a Pittsburgh fan, you kind of have to like what you saw last week. He was 16 of 24, 308 yards, 1 touchdown. He's kind of steady game manager type guy who's going to make the right reads. I think if you're Pittsburgh, you got to really look out for Tennessee's running back, Jay Wright. He had a touchdown last week, almost had 100 yards. Should have an impact in the game. I don't know. Who do you like in this game, Aaron? Tennessee or Pittsburgh?
I think I'm going to go with the home team, Pittsburgh. I think there's a little SEC bias here, but
okay.
I'll be honest, I don't know, but I'm going to say Pittsburgh.
You know what? I want to say Pittsburgh just because I don't like the SEC, and if you're an SEC fan, and we apologize, but we're Big Ten people over here. I don't know. I mean, Tennessee looked really good against Ball State last week. I mean, they dominated that game. So I think Tennessee might pull off the upset here. Actually, no, it's not upset because they're favored. I think Tennessee wins this game, unfortunately, but we'll see. All right, at 7 o'clock, this is another SEC battle. Coach Stoops, who's done an amazing job turning around Kentucky, that guy can coach. When you think of Kentucky, you think of basketball, obviously. And football is fun down there. He's made it fun. And the crowd shows up. And, they have a nice stadium. This game is, unfortunately, at Florida, so the Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Florida is currently favored 4.5 points. Both teams are undefeated. Obviously, we already mentioned about Florida's huge win against Utah. Who do you like in this game?
Coach Cal, eat your heart out. I'm going Wildcats.
Oh, okay, going Wildcats. Let's take a look at some of the key players in this game real quick. Kentucky's quarterback, a lot of the NFL scouts like this guy. I mean, he could be potentially playing next year on Sundays. They like him that much. He threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then and also the quarterback from Florida, wow, that guy can run. There's been some comparisons of Vince Young, Lamar Jackson. I mean, when you start putting those names, attaching them to Richardson, that's a huge compliment. So Kentucky defense is going to have a huge task on controlling his running ability and also making sure that they don't get burnt on the pass. 7:30 on ABC. We have 14th ranked USC 1-0 playing Stanford, who also is 1-0. This is at Stanford Stadium. The Trojans are currently 9-point favorites. Stanford quarterback threw for 308 yards, had 2 touchdowns. Very good performance last week. They didn't really play anybody special, though, so that was kind of expected. In their running back, Stanford's running back, E.J. Smith, a very solid running back. He had a good game last week as well. 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing. But I guess my question is, what can the Trojan defense do against better competition? So that'll be interesting to see. And can Stanford stifle or at least slow down the Trojan offense enough to not make this a huge blowout early on?
Yeah, the 9-point spread there seems a little low for this one. I like USC.
I was thinking the same thing. Only 9 points.
I mean, do they know something we don't? I don't know.
So, if you're a late nighter and you want to stay up till, 1 o'clock in the morning, so 10:15 on ESPN, Baylor, 10th ranked Baylor, 1-0, is playing the BYU Cougars, 25th ranked team in the nation. This game is at Lavelle Edwards Stadium in Provo, Utah. The Cougars are a 3.5-point favorite. Does that surprise you against a Big 12 Power 5 conference team?
Yeah, a little bit, but it must be because they're the home team, I'm assuming.
So, Baylor has a solid squad. Starting off with their quarterback, Hall. He was 25-32, so a very good night. 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then their running back, Brooks, he had a good night as well. Scored a touchdown, had over 130 yards rushing. Now, for Baylor, you got to look out for their wide receiver, Baldwin. He had a very good night last week. 84 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. This over-under is at 53.5 points. I think there's going to be quite a bit of scoring. Maybe the team who has the ball last wins this game. But I think I like Baylor, honestly. I think I like Baylor to win this game and get a huge road win. I like Baylor. Okay, we are going to move on to our next topic and reveal our NFL top 5 teams. And this is how we see the season ending. So these are not the top 5 teams now, per se, but how we envision at the end of the season, top 5. So I'm going to start off first, and then after I reveal my top 5, Aaron will reveal his top 5. Starting at number 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Some people would argue that they should be higher than 5. I just think Tom Brady's age is going to start showing and impact his performance. On top of that, his offensive line injuries are building up. They got a decently tough schedule, but they do have Leonard Fournette, who's a good running back. Chris Godfrey is a good wide receiver. They added Logan Ryan to shore up the secondary. And some of their tough games, they got to go on the road to Dallas early in the year. They do play home against the Packers, Chiefs, Ravens, and Rams. And then they go on the road to San Francisco. And then wrap up the season home against the Bengals. So that's my 5th team. My 4th team is the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know about quarterback Patrick Mahomes. He's an elite quarterback. Their running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, last year was a 1,000-yard rusher. And then Travis Kelce. They added Juju Smith-Schuster, so look for him to be productive. They're tough games. They play the Chargers on the road against the Colts, Buccaneers. They host the Bills on the road to the 49ers and Chargers. They go home to face the Rams. And then they have, towards the end of the season, 3 crucial road games. Bengals, Broncos, and Raiders. So, challenging schedule for the Chiefs. My number 3 team, I have Cincinnati. We all know that Joe Burrow had a magical year last year. Really made a name for himself in the league. The wide receiver, Jamar Chase, his college roommate from LSU. They might be arguably the best young quarterback wide receiver duo in the league. And then on top of that, you throw in the running back Joe Mixon, who is a huge contributor to the offense. Key addition, last year, everybody knew that their weak line needed some help, and they in the offseason they provided some addition to the offensive line. The offensive tackle Lael Collins, offensive guard Alex Kappa, and center Ted Karras. A lot of people are saying that their line might be a top 10 offensive line right now, so good news if you're Joe Burrow. Some tough games. They go on the road to the Cowboys, Ravens, and Titans, as well as the Bucks, and they host the Chiefs and the Bills. My number 2 team is the Los Angeles Rams. Quarterback Matthew Stafford. What an addition he was last year. Continues to put up big numbers, and I expect him to do the same thing this year. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp, one of the leading receivers in the league last year, should have a good year this year. And they did add wide receiver Allen Robinson from the Bears, so that's a good addition there. Coach McVay, one of the best young head coaches in the league. I think he's a solid coach. Always gets the Rams where they need to be competitive. And some of the tough games this year for the Rams, the Bills and Cowboys, both at home. And then also the Raiders at home. They do go on the road at Bucks, Chiefs, Packers, and Chargers. And then my number 1 team, Aaron, is going to be the Buffalo Bills. No surprise there. Almost all the experts are picking the Bills this year. I really like their quarterback, Josh Allen. He's a proven winner. Of course, they got their wide receiver star in Stephon Diggs. And they added some help on defense in the linebacker core with Von Miller from the Rams. Some of their tough games, they got to go on the road to play at the Rams, at Ravens, at the Chiefs, at the Bengals, and they host the Packers. Could this be the year, Aaron, where they finally break through to make the Super Bowl? I mean, if there's any fan base in the NFL that's been dying for a Super Bowl win, it's got to be the Bills. They've been there, 4 times in the modern era, lost all 4 times, so who knows? Maybe this is the year.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to see them get their first Super Bowl. So at number 5, I like your list. My list, I'm going to start off with a little curveball. Number 5, I thought about putting the Packers here and also the Bengals. I like both those teams this year too. But I'm just going to throw it out here just for the sake of it. The LA Chargers, I think the Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler duo is going to take another step. And not to mention, I'll be pulling for this team to help me win another fantasy league championship this year. We play in a league with our friends from college, so I put them there for the sake of, because I want them to win.
Aaron, in the history of the Benton House Bethel College, I guess now Bethel University, Fantasy Football League, I don't know, has there ever been a back-to-back champion?
You know what? I'm not sure.
Let's do some digging and research to find an answer.
Yeah.
As a big answer.
I think I won 10 years ago, but then I won last year. So.
I've only won it one time. I think it might have been the first or second year of doing the fantasy league.
Yeah, should be a fun fantasy season for sure. My 4th team, I put Tampa Bay here. I think until Tom Brady shows any real drop-off, I have the same concerns as that you pointed out, Will. But I think Tom Brady will find a way if he's still at the level he was. There are some kind of interesting storylines with him and how he took some time off. So who knows? He could. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired mid-season, but I don't think he. I think he's a type of person who will finish the season, but who knows? Number 3, I have Kansas City. The bad taste is still there with this team. I think they'll play with that edge. They have Patrick Mahomes. I think he'll have a great year again. The more I think about it, I kind of could see them ending up in the Super Bowl this year again. But I think definitely the AFC title will come through Kansas City. Number 2, I put the Bills. I think everyone likes this team, and how could you not with what they've done? Josh Allen's crazy good. So, yeah, I think the Bills hopefully can get it done this year. And then finally, I put the Rams. I think it could be the Rams and the Bills in the Super Bowl. I just like how Stafford and McShay, that pairing, they're going to have an easier path to the Super Bowl. So getting back there and repeating is more possible. So, yeah, those are my top 5.
So, Thursday, Bills and Rams to start the NFL season. Buffalo's 2.5-point favorite. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting way to open the season. All right, we're going to take another break, and then when we come back, I will preview the Bears season, and will preview the Colts season.
If you are enjoying our podcast and want to donate, please find the donation link in our show notes. Any donation, no matter how small, will make a big difference in helping us bring you better quality podcast shows.
All right, welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show. We're going to talk a little more NFL and a couple teams that are important to people in our area. Let's start with the Chicago Bears. Kind of an interesting position this team is in. They have a new GM in Ryan Poles and a head coach, Matt Eberflus. It seems like from what I've gathered that they're kind of in a talent evaluation mode, rebuilding mode. They're trying to see what they have on their roster. Eberflus comes from Indianapolis, defensive-minded coach. It's kind of cool to hear both of them talk in the press conference. I'm talking about Poles and Eberflus seemed to have faith, and they were open about that. That was kind of cool to see. But anyways, Eberflus, has this philosophy called HITS, hustle, intensity, taking the ball away and taking care of the ball on offense. So it's kind of cool. It sounds like he knows what he's doing. It'll be interesting to see if he can have that success in Chicago. Their over-under win total this year is 6.5. And I think if they get to 6 or 7 wins, that would be a pretty big surprise just at where they're at as a franchise. I mean, the gap between them and Green Bay and even Minnesota is kind of big, in my opinion, just on paper. No big expectations for this team. I think can pretty much find out if Justin Fields is the guy, and hopefully some of their younger draft picks kind of put some impact into this season. If we look at their offense, it centers around Justin Fields. Is he the franchise guy? The Bears will continue to rely on David Montgomery in the run game, and their receiving core will look a little different this year. They've added some low risk, high reward guys like Byron Pringle from Kansas City and one of the St. Brown brothers. They also traded for N'Keal Harry from New England, trying to see if they can revive his career. And of course they have their young their young wideout Darnell Mooney, and they just drafted Velus Jones Jr. from Tennessee, who looks like he might be a good prospect. And they drafted some offensive linemen late in the the draft, so hopefully one of them can stick and help the offensive line. But I think the most interesting move might have been how they brought in Luke Getsy from Green Bay as the offensive coordinator. Hearing him kind of talk, it seems like he's going to try to fit the system around Fields, which may be good news for Bears fans, as Ryan Pace and Coach Nagy seemed like they were more rigid and that he had to fit their system. Defensively, switching back to the 4-3, they'll look a lot familiar to the Tampa 2 that many Bears fans love and remember just recently under Lovie Smith and so on. Yeah, so I think can their two young defensive backs, I'm talking about Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, make an immediate impact will be a key to the season. And look for the Bears to get back to taking the ball away, as Coach Eberflus is in his time at the Colts. The Colts defense was top 10 in all the major categories on defense. So that, I think that's an encouraging thing, and hopefully he can get that done in Chicago as well. Schedule-wise, Warren Sharp Football Analysis thinks the Bears have the fourth easiest schedule. Warren Sharp is kind of the go-to in the industry on predicting strength of schedule and win totals. So, yeah, even with having that easy schedule, I don't really see them getting more than 5 wins. Some of their key road games are let's start over. Their first 4 games are pretty important. They'll probably start 0-2 because they have San Fran coming to Soldier Field in week 1, and then they travel to Green Bay, so those are likely 2 losses. The next 2 are gettable when they host the Texans, and then in week 4 they travel to New York to take on the Giants. If they can start 2-2, then maybe they can get to that 6 or 7 wins. Other tough road games include traveling to New England and Dallas in back-to-back weeks in October. And then they have tough home games when they host an interesting Miami team in early November. And then the Bills come to Soldier Field on Christmas Eve. And that doesn't even mention all their divisional games, which they'll more likely be the underdog in those. Big picture-wise, I think the Bears are just hoping to see if Justin Fields is their franchise quarterback, and that Coach Eberflus and Ryan Poles have a plan, and that they see that improvement week to week. Yeah, I think it's kind of I wouldn't say a hopeless year. It's more of more of the same. Do they have the right people in place? So I see them at the bottom of their division and the league as a whole.
Okay, so thank you, Aaron, for the Bears preview. I'm going to go ahead and preview the Indianapolis Colts. Offensively, Matt Ryan is a veteran winner in the sense that he is a true professional, a type of clubhouse leader that you want. He's going to manage the game effectively. Life will be easier for Matt if Jonathan Taylor can repeat his performance from last year, and I think he will. In addition to Jonathan carrying the ball, look for Nyheim Hines to have some carries as well. The receivers will be led by Michael Pittman Jr. Also look for Paris Campbell and Alec Pierce to make contributions. The offensive line is still one of the best in the division and is anchored by former Notre Dame great Quentin Nelson. Along with Nelson is former South Bend Adams Eagle and Ball State alum Danny Pinter, who starts at right guard, and Ryan Kelly at center to solidify the line. Defensively, they run a 4-3, and the defense is led by Shaquille Leonard. He's a dynamic playmaker that has really made a name for himself in this league. They also have a defensive tackle in DeForest Buckner. He has been steady and looks to have another solid year. Right defensive end, Yannick Ngakoue, I probably said that wrong, apologize, will be relied on to pressure the quarterback. Yannick has gotten at least 8 sacks in his first 6 seasons. Only 6 players have started their career like that in the NFL. Cornerback Kenny Moore II is a versatile playmaker. He can cover well and support the run defense. Kicker Rodrigo Blankenship will do the field goal duties. The Colts just signed former Buffalo Bills punter Matt Hack after Colts starting punter Rigoberto Sanchez ruptured his Achilles. Schedule-wise, tough games this year include home games with Kansas City and Tennessee. That's back-to-back weeks. Road games against Denver, Tennessee, New England, Las Vegas, Dallas, and Minnesota. They also have a late-season home game versus Los Angeles Rams. The big picture, Indianapolis has not won the AFC South since 2014. And if you're a Colts fan, that is an eternity. The Colts probably have their best roster of Coach Wright's tenure. The pressure to win is now. Jacksonville and Texas both rebuilding. So it really comes down to Tennessee and Indianapolis competing for the division. The Colts need to win the games they should win, and they are favored to win, and need to win 1 or 2 games where they're not favored to win. I think they can do that and get to 10 wins. So my record prediction for the Colts for the regular season is 10 wins and 7 losses. I think they make the playoffs too. Barely though. This wraps up the episode. Thank you for tuning in. Next episode, we will talk about local high school football, college football expansion, the Major League Baseball wildcard race. Also talk about Albert Pujols' chase to 700 home runs, the South Bend Cubs playoffs, and check in with former Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly and his LSU Tigers.
Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. That helps us grow the show. Also, follow The Will and Aaron Show on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube for updates. You can find our podcast links in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Signing off from The Will and Aaron Show.